5 after 7, at least on the clock here on the wall, so the appointed time is here. I'd like to call the meeting of the Florence School District 1 Board of Trustees to order. I'm informed that the public notifications have been duly provided. With that said, as is customary and upon the agenda, I'm going to invite the board members and those in the audience who care to do so to rise for a moment of silence, to be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, to be led by Board Member Barry Townsend. A moment of silence at this time. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This time I'll call board members' attention to tonight's agenda and entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Those in favor would please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. With that, I'll move to tonight's recognitions and awards and recognize Ms. Pam Little McDaniel.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. First, we'd like to call Mr. Robert Suggs to come forward and please face the audience for us. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, Robert Suggs is a driver education teacher at West Florence High School, and he is the recipient of the 2021 Southeast Region of American Driver and Traffic Safety Education Teacher Excellence Award. Let's give him a round of applause. The principal at West Florence High School, Mr. Matthew Dowdell, said, Mr. Suggs has been a part of the West Florence staff for the past 4 years. His knowledge of driver education and his overall caring for our students makes him a great asset to our school. He truly cares about our students, and he goes above and beyond to help them become safe drivers. Mr. Suggs' program is one of the best in our state, and we are fortunate to have him as a team member at West Florence High School. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Robert Suggs, Southeast Regional American Driver and Traffic Safety Education Teacher Excellence Award winner. Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Suggs. Mr. Andrews, Mr. Billy Andrews, would you please come forward? Thanks the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, here is a message from the principal at West Florence High School again, Mr. Matthew Dowdell. He says, recently, Coach Andrews won his 600th soccer game as the head coach at West Florence High School. He is the only second person in South Carolina athletic history to achieve such a milestone. While the wins are nothing short of unbelievable, what is more impressive is the impact Coach Andrews has had on the lives of thousands of students and student athletes alike. His dedication to Florence One schools is unmatched, and his successes should be celebrated as such. The 600th win was a win for Coach Andrews, the West Florence soccer program, Florence One schools, and the greater Florence community. Congratulations to Coach Andrews. Coach Andrews has served as the only head varsity soccer coach at West Florence, with a total of 44 years of service. In addition, ladies and gentlemen, we have family members here who are with Mr. Andrews. Ms. Andrews, it's good to have you here, as always. And from Florence One Schools, here is a message as well. Coach Andrews was born alive and kicking. Thus, he was destined to become a soccer icon. Coaching student athletes is not just a calling, but it is an internal scream which is released once an individual picks up a whistle and decides to dedicate oneself to goals, fields, and goals. 600 soccer wins is a tremendous accomplishment. This one in particular because South Carolina has not always been considered a soccer state. Coach Andrews was one of the pioneers in bringing soccer to the forefront of South Carolina school athletics. In all his years of leadership and guidance, for the round and black-white ball to land at the feet of children, to get kicked and headbutted, it goes much further than that. The life lessons he has taught the students of Florence, the sorrows with every loss and the careers and the cheers of every win, there's much more to the game than what we as spectators see. Coach Andrews has been a role model for over 40 years in the Florence community. He is known as the soccer coach to those who don't actually know him. To those of us who do know him, he is a motivator and an idealistic force who goes against the odds to see a vision become reality. His positivity and actions are why he has reached 600 wins and why we all celebrate his overall greatness this evening. Coach Andrews, we are indebted to you for so much more than wins, and we can only hope that your tenacity and your energy remain contagious for years to come. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Billy Andrews, 600 soccer
Amazing, man, amazing. Thank you. It's all me.
It's a two-person
And let me say to Dr. O'Malley, to Board Chair Stewart, and to the distinguished Board of Trustees, thank you for having us here and for recognizing Coach Andrews. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Next, we will recognize Mr. Kenny Gray. Mr. Gray, please come forward. On April 6, 2021, Coach Kenny Gray achieved his 300th win as head coach of the South Florence High School baseball team. 300 wins is quite the achievement for any head coach, but what makes this milestone exceptional is that Coach Gray achieved all 300 of those wins at one school, which displays Coach Gray's loyalty to Florence One Schools, South Florence High School, his alma mater, and the many students and student athletes he has impacted throughout his career. Coach Gray has an unmatched work ethic, a high baseball IQ, and is a molder of young men. All of these qualities are the reason he has reached this milestone in his career. South Florence High School, Florence One Schools, and the community are fortunate to have Coach Gray as a teacher, coach, and role model for our youth. And we look forward to his continued success. Congratulations on your 300th win, Coach Kenny Gray. That message from South Florence High School. And finally, this message from Florence One Schools. Kenny Gray. Every baseball player is a combination of who they watch on television, who their teammates are, and who they are coached by. Iconic professionals such as Kenny Gray only come along every few generations or so. How fortunate we are to have Coach Gray in Florence 1 schools, garnering 300 wins in one career. This is not only a monumental moment for Coach Gray, but also a moment of pride for those of us who have witnessed his commitment to the students of Florence and to the coaching profession of South Carolina baseball enthusiasts. We salute you and we shout a hearty congratulations, job well done. There's no crying in baseball, so just remember, hit hard, run fast, and turn left. It has been said that one cannot steal second without taking the foot off of first. Coach Kenny Gray took that advice to heart and never stopped running, never stopped swinging, and thank goodness he has never stopped coaching. You have hit it out of the ballpark, Mr. Gray. Florence 1 Schools is better for having known you and for having you call us home. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Kenny Gray, 300 wins at South Florence High School as baseball coach.
Congratulations. Man. Appreciate it. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you. Get this mask on.
Thank you, Ms. Little McDaniel, for outstanding presentations, and again, congratulations to those recognized tonight. This time on our agenda, I'll move to our public participation. I've been handed one card and would this time recognize Mr. Elder James W. Williams. And Mr. Elder Williams, you've spoken to us many times, so I won't go through the spiel, but invite you to the lectern.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
To God be the glory, and to God be the praise. I come before you tonight to let you hear from me about my dissatisfaction with the way that Florence 1 is moving in terms of its building of new schools.
Porter, I can't hardly hear. I can't hardly hear Elder Williams.
Okay. I came before you tonight to express my dissatisfaction with the way that Florence District 1 is moving in terms of facilities for our students. All of you know very well that Williams has been suffering, languishing for a long time. And to do what you recently did and appropriate monies for West Florence over Williams and Savannah Grove for that matter, should be unconscionable, but I recognize that some people don't have consciences. But that does not mitigate the need to operate in a decent manner. You all have managed to get this board to where you can pretty much do what you want now, but things won't You have shown a tremendous amount of lack of integrity by taking our district in a way that I hadn't seen in a long time. I had hoped that we had fought most of these fights, but I see that you still got your boxing gloves on. So I'm just letting you know that I am dissatisfied, and I won't let it go at that. Thank you.
All right, thank you for appearing. This time we'll move to the superintendent's update, and I'll recognize Dr. O'Malley.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Two items under my update. I'm going to do the graduation 2021 update very quickly and then move to the Advantage Academy. Just some additional news that the Florence Center has expanded our seating capacity to 4,000. We've never reached 4,000, so that's really where we're at. So that'll be very good news. Right now it stands that Wilson High School will receive, each graduate will receive 13 tickets. South Florence and West Florence will each receive 10 tickets. And it'll be unassigned seating just like it has been in the past. So some really good news there to move forward. Masks are still going to be required at this point in time, but that's really good news. The principals will all send out letters next Tuesday to the seniors as well as their parents and guardians to just go over some other logistical things. But it looks like we're moving forward. It's good news, and I wanted to share that with the board and the community this evening. The next item, anybody have any questions on the graduation? Okay. The next item, I'll ask Ms. Carpenter to please come up. She's the director at the Current Career Academy. This evening, we'd like to, and I'll let you introduce once you go through your presentation, those that will be presenting with you as well. But Ms. Carpenter will be presenting something that's probably about a year in the making. About a year ago, we talked about possibly moving the Career Center over to Florence Darlington Tech. Sometimes that creates a little bit of firestorm, but sometimes you have to shake the ground if you want to move education. And I think just by looking at things doesn't necessarily mean it's a wrong thing to do. We weren't able to partner with the Florence Darlington Tech to kind of take over our Career Center and do the things that we thought that they were able to do. So we kind of do like we always do, step back, take a look at what we can do. And tonight you're going to hear a little bit about how we can reimagine, rebrand our Career Center to be called the Advantage Academy, and how we want to name and rebrand that because we want to be able to provide our students with advantages that maybe other students don't have and opportunities in different areas along the way. So we're excited about this 2-year process that will take us to reimagine that and provide some opportunities and how we deliver certain curriculum. I think COVID has allowed us to take a look at education in a different way and what the classroom can look like and sort of flip some of those models. So I'll let Ms. Carpenter take the floor and share with us the vision for the new Career Center moving forward over the next 2 years. Thank you for being with us this evening.
Thank you, Dr. O'Malley. I appreciate you inviting us to be a part of the updates and changes and present them to the board tonight. I have with me Brian DeBose. He's the guidance counselor at the Career Center. And sitting next to him is Cam Shepard. He's our business ed coordinator, who's put a lot of time and energy, both have put a lot of time and energy in all of this. I want to start by saying 3 years ago when Dr. O'Malley arrived, we talked about rebranding the Career Center. It was a conversation we had. And I am absolutely thrilled, as I know we all are, that we are moving forward with that vision. And a big part of that vision, which everybody, I'm sure in the whole community will appreciate, is the new facade of our building. This is a rendering done by Hal Fuller that will show what the new Career Center will look like. It is just remodeling the front. As you can see, it will have windows all the way across the front. A canopy or awning will be across the front as well. And then the top is going to be made out of some metal sheathing. So it's a tremendous improvement and really not a lot needing to be done for this tremendous improvement. And as you see above that is the Advantage Academy, and I agree with Dr. O'Malley 100%. Another conversation we had on what we were going to name it. We've always used the slogan, we're the competitive edge, and I think this goes hand in hand with that as being the Advantage Academy. It stands just what it's about. Any student that takes a course or any program at the Career Center has the advantage. In front of you, I hope you all received the handout as far as the programs, current programs we do offer now. There are 16 of those. I'm not going to go through them all. You can see the programs we do offer, the certifications and credentials that are associated with each one of those programs, along with our business partners that, like I mentioned earlier, Mr. Shepherd has worked hard to establish with the community and the business and industries in Florence. There are 16 of those. Some programs have more credentials and certifications than others. That's neither here nor there, but just thought I'd point that out. Moving forward, we also offer different types of certifications, not necessarily programs. In the future, the state of South Carolina is requiring us to offer stackable certifications. And what that is at least 3. Every program must have 3 certifications. So that is an important factor moving forward. And so our level 1 will take 1 certification. And of course, as we move up, there will be more career-ready certifications for our completers. We have forklift certification that we started in our welding department this year. We're expanding it to other programs each year because there is training involved for our instructors to be licensed, certified forklift trainers. So next year we're looking to move that into our building construction program. We've had drone certification in the past that we've run through our project Lead the Way, and we want to even extend that further into our ag program. As you know, drones are high in demand in about every business and industry these days, from real estate to agriculture, you name it. So we want to continue expanding those certifications as well. All of our programs have a business partnership, as you see in the packet we handed out. All of our programs are required to have an advisory committee. And what that is, it's made up of individuals who are affiliated with the business or industry for each program. And they are essential in providing our students with work-based opportunities, apprenticeships, even field studies. We also offer, which Mr. Shepherd is also responsible for, is reporting all our work-based hours to the State Department. Those are required to be career ready. So there's a lot already going on at the Career Center, but there's a lot more we can offer. And the new programs that we will offer will all be required to follow these same guidelines. That does not change. Moving forward to 21-22, these are the changes and updates that are going to take place. The first one is our early childhood education program. We are looking to move that to a child development center. Our students do their internships there anyway at Woods Road and at Beck. So our level 1 students will have the opportunity to take those classes virtually on their own campus. It won't be Apex or anything or at home. They will go to their campus, Wilson West, go to the Apex lab and still have their classes virtually there. Level 2 will report to the child development centers as they have in the past, so that won't change. Law enforcement, we are removing law enforcement from our programs. It is a program that our students have to be, that a person must be 21 before entering Law Enforcement Academy. And so therefore our students who take this class cannot go on to the academy. So we are eliminating law enforcement. Health science, we have 3 on our campus and then 1 at West Florence. We are not renewing one of our positions just because West Florence does have a health science teacher now who's able to handle the CNA. So there was no need for us to take up that slack. So we're just not renewing that position. It was a long-term sub in that position anyway, so no one has been affected there. And our culinary arts program is growing. Dr. O'Malley and Larry Reynolds came out a couple of weeks ago. We walked through the facilities. We're looking at doing some remodeling in there. Just simply knocking down a wall is going to be tremendous and opening up into one huge kitchen area where we can continue to expand the stoves and ovens down one wall. He can have a prep area and a cook area, which is obviously very important in the culinary world. And so we are super excited about there, and so is so is Chef Harwell. So we can't wait for that to happen. For our new programs, this is where the heart of the matter comes in. These are some very innovative programs, and I think it's something that we haven't seen around here in Florence. Just because a business might not be here, or just because a student may not be aware of some of the opportunities that are out there. These are great innovative programs that we've already established partnerships with these programs. Electrical line worker is just that, it's a linesman. We'll be working with Santee Electric and Duke Energy. Our electricity teacher now, Mr. Zolwinski, will be teaching that next year, so there will be no new hire there for the first year because it does require an electrician the first two courses. Our emergency medical services, that's an EMS, and we all know what in demand they are. We also know this demand because CTE across the state is required to do a comprehensive needs assessment every 2 years. And that's where we get the information that leads us to offering new programs. And then, of course, we also like to be a little innovative on our own. Hospitality, medical, let me finish with EMS. We have partnered with PD Regional. They are the EMS training company in town, and our students will be going there for their clinicals or level 3, a lot like our health science students do at McLeod for their CNAs. Our EMS students will be going to PD Regional for their clinicals, and they can walk away, if they pass the exam, with an EMS license. You can't beat that right out of high school, okay? Same with the linesmen. Walk away, Duke Energy, Santee Electric, PD Co-op, get a job. Going straight from high school to your career. Hospitality and tourism, that's a no-brainer. That comes up on every assessment we do. Living in Florence, we all know we're the halfway point between Miami and Maine. There are more hotels in that West Florence than you can count. So it's a no-brainer that the job opportunities for our students here in Florence are there. And we have partnered already with Raldex, so they are our first partner. We hope to partner with the Florence Center in the future. We will be looking at the lodging management and the what's my second one, guys? Events. That's why we want to partner with the center. The other one is travel, and we're staying away from the travel and tourism part. We're concentrating on lodging and events. The fourth program is Aviation. It is not a state CTE approved program. We are going to apply for that in the fall as an innovative program with the State Department of Education, CTE. And I know Greenville is doing it, so there should not be a reason we won't be accepted. This year when Dr. O'Malley and I met, we just missed the deadline. It was the end of January. And I appreciate you. You just don't know how much we are thrilled to death that you approved this program for us next year, and so we can get it started. And that's a big plus when we go to have it approved in the future, to know that our board was behind us from day one. So we really appreciate that, and thank you for approving that program. This is beyond our wildest dreams. This is absolutely marvelous. And the ironic thing was, you say aviation, airplanes, gosh, who's gonna be our partner, who's gonna do, people came out of the woodwork after this was brought up at the board meeting. I mean, people were calling Dr. O'Malley, people were calling me. I was like, I didn't know you were a pilot. I didn't know that you were interested in aviation. Mr. Shepard met with the Florence Airport. They are doing a lot of renovations out there, even considering putting an on-site classroom for us out there. So things are just, couldn't be better in this department. The one I thought would be the toughest has turned out to be the easiest. And this, to me, is an opportunity for students in Florence 1 to do something they may never have thought of doing. Never. And it also is huge for our community as far as the airport goes. It is vital that you have an airport in your community if you want to grow. Businesses want good education and they want transportation. Those are the two things they want, and we all know that. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. And so partnering with the Florence Airport, it's a win for them, it's a win for our kids. I think this is going to be the innovative program to end all innovative programs. New classes, this is just a new class we've added to our horticultural program. It's agricultural science. Mr. Myers, our instructor, will be teaching this. He'll be doing horticulture as well, but he also will be teaching the ag science class. One of the reasons we've added ag science, well, actually, we had planned to add ag science to start with. You'll see in the future, I'm not going to read all this. I'll just let you look and see what each program has to offer, the equipment that's needed for this. We will have 2 telephone poles out back eventually behind the school for training facilities. Santee Cooper or Santee Electric has already donated 2 transformers, so we're ahead of the game there. Emergency medical services, this is a simulator. It looks like the back end of an ambulance, which it is. It's great. Students get to really experience what it's like to be in that tiny space. So that's a piece of equipment we're looking to purchase down the road as well. Hospitality and tourism. We don't have to build a hotel for this. We'll do our work base there. It doesn't need half as much equipment as the other programs, but doesn't mean it's less important as they are. Aviation program, of course, you've heard all the details of that from an earlier board meeting. When we were talking about ag science, one of the reasons that ag science is going to be vital is in 22-23, we're looking to add some new ag programs. One of them is sports turf management and turf and lawn management, and the prerequisite for both of those classes is horticulture. So we already offer horticulture. Students who take horticulture can either decide to go on and take horticulture 1 or go take a different path and go turf management or sports turf management. Gives more options to the students. Under that is plant and animal systems and animal science. Again, we're going to offer ag science, and that is a prerequisite for animal science and equine science, what we're looking to put in place in 22-23 as well. And so that will be a prerequisite, and therefore any students next year taking ag science will have the opportunity in 22-23 to also take animal science or equine science if they so choose. As Dr. O'Malley and I talked about the Career Center and rebranding the Career Center, you have to have a vision, and as you all know, Dr. O'Malley has a vision, and part of that vision is taking our horticulture and our plant and animal out to the farm, as we say, and it will become part of the farm. Mr. Myers and his students were there for the ribbon cutting the other day, and I think it's a wonderful opportunity to utilize and all work together collectively. And so down the road, our health science and our we'll go to the magnet school, our agricultural science and horticulture will go to the farm, and we're looking to do that 22, 23, 23, 24. That's up to y'all, not me. But I appreciate your support. I think this is absolutely wonderful. It is a vision I've had for a long time to rebrand the Career Center, and I am thankful that y'all have been supportive. I'm not going to touch on plumbing. That's something we may do or may not do based on the needs assessment. But that's where the Career Center is heading next year and in the future. Any questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes. Yes, sir.
I'd just like to know, whoever the lady was a great salesman on the Career Center. But I want to know whether or not the entire community met on this, or if the board already voted on this already. Because we had a big meeting at Mount Zion, where we had a church full of people dealing with the Career Center. And I'm quite sure he has the votes to do it. But what I'm saying is, has the entire community been involved in this decision? And her presentation was great. All the things you were putting in there to do is fantastic. All that's good. But when you don't involve the entire community, you're only getting a one-side view. So what I'm asking is, has this been done? And if it's been done, that's fine. But you want the entire community to be involved when you have a massive decision like this, when the community, part of the community, has not really approved or didn't want it moving along on that particular way you talk about, especially you're talking about rebranding. Just make sure, hopefully, that in order to make something work, we have to bring the entire community along to make sure it works and that everybody's on the same page. And Florence School District 1, I graduated from them, a lot of us did. I like what you got when you had about the other people that were involved. We got one person on our board who works for one of those companies, lighting companies. Greg was one of them. He's got a job now. So all that's great. All that's fantastic. All your visions are fine. But when you have a vision, just like when I had a vision to build a boys club, I had a vision for the community, not just one person or two people. But what I'm saying, I don't have anything against it. All I'm saying is, did you involve the entire community in your decision? And the board, was the board updated on what you did in order to bring the community along to what you're doing and your decisions? I don't know. You know, I was in the hospital during that time. And I have no idea. But I'm just speaking from a layman's point of view and a part of this board. I just want to know that everybody get 100% talked about on your decision. Did you involve the entire community on this decision about, because this is a big thing in our community. You were invited to come, and the entire board, to hear those presentations. And that's all I want to say on that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. This is our career center. This is not other entities. A change of name, but it involved the personnel there, as the director indicated. But thank you for your comments. Any other questions or comments from board members?
Are you gonna answer the question?
Well, the response to the question is these expansion of educational opportunities for students is developed by our professional personnel within the school system itself. This is not a change of our educational system. This is all internal.
So stakeholders are not involved? I think that's.
They have advisory committees. They follow the
Can you
protocols.
elaborate on, I mean, that's.
Well, she made the presentation fully.
I don't know, I'm just saying.
Yes, if you had been here when she was here, she explained the full process, where they used business partners and the advisory committees and came up with these recommendations and went through the protocols. This is not outside interest. This is our people doing their job at the Career Center, being rebranded as an Opportunity Academy with expanded courses. This is being presented to us for information.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd just like to say that this is such a wonderful opportunity for our students, to think that they can take these courses, walk out, be certified to get a job. I don't know how there could be any complaints or any problems with that, because it will entail and take in all of our students. All of our students are able to go to the Advantage Academy and take advantage of these courses. You know, I just think it's a wonderful opportunity, and it's moving us forward into the future. And with new jobs and things that are right here, that they can walk out and, you know, go right into these jobs. I'd just like to thank Ms. Kitty, you and your team, for what you've done and the work that you've done to put this together. And then going out and working with our businesses and involving them. That's a wonderful thing that I've wanted to see done in this district for a long, long time. I just think that with their help, the sky's the limit for us, because they need our students. And they're willing to help us with this training. And they've wanted to do this for a long, long time. And so please just reach out and grab some more of them out there, because there are some that you didn't have listed here that I know for a fact would like to be involved with it. But thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I want to thank, I read the presentation, and I just want to make certain that it's clear in terms of the integration of the IGPs, in terms of the acceleration and the expansion of what you're doing. And I think that's really what Mr. McIver was asking to be expounded upon. And I apologize for not being present during the presentation. But that's fundamental in terms of what's being done. And this isn't the first wave of this. I'm thinking back even when, and you can remember when there was the school to work and the when there was the college prep pieces. So making certain that the students who really may not choose the path present or immediately to go into what we call the 4-year college program, but to ensure that these students will have a certification that will afford them the opportunity to come out and make meaningful dollars. And I hate you didn't finish the part on the plumbing. Because those of us who have to have plumbers, and the cost for plumbers is critical. And even when you talk to those that are in construction in our community, it's hard to find plumbers and electricians and providing those opportunities for journey. So the direction, and in terms of making certain that the involvement of the community, I think the piece to that is critical, because even those that may not even be identified, as Ms. Calder has mentioned, making certain that there are lots of small businesses that will afford those opportunities for students as well.
Yeah, thank you. Any other board members? Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
That concludes my report, just those 2 items.
Okay, very
Thank you.
good.
Sorry.
Catch it. All right, thank you for the presentation. This time I'll call attention to the action items.
Mr. Chairman,
Sir?
I'd like to move that we approve items 1, 2, and 3.
All right, items 1, 2, and 3 are approval of the financial statements of the March minutes and of the personnel sheets. That's items 1, 2, and 3. There's
Second.
a motion, and that has been seconded. Any questions or comments? Yes, sir.
So questions that we have about personnel, so we just ask them out in public now. I know we don't have anything in terms of executive session.
Well, of course, then we also have those sheets. We also would have reappointment of staff. You're referring to number 3?
Yes.
Okay. We do have executive session, as stated there. These items, including personnel, are shown as action items. So therefore, with those items appearing on the agenda, if something, if a board member wants to pull an item, if approved by the board, that would be in order, according to my ruling.
No, I'm just asking a question as it relates to the approval of personnel, since it doesn't have even the sheets down in terms of personnel, how, if there are questions that we have for personnel, that opportunity has not been provided.
Well, the personnel sheets did appear when the agenda came out this week, with an opportunity to check with the superintendent if you'd so desired.
No, my questions of executive session board, not check with the superintendent outside of my parameter as a board member.
And what I stated with respect to personnel is if the majority of the board would like something pulled, since we are having executive session, that would be in order.
I understand that, but I know how the majority has continued to operate, so I'm asking if I have questions about any of the personnel since it wasn't listed as on the executive session, I'm quite certain y'all have already adopted the agenda as printed.
Well, yes, that action to approve the agenda was approved.
So the only thing that we're approving are just the personnel sheets.
Correct. Under this motion that's on the floor, that is correct. Any other questions or clarification? All right, the motion as seconded was to approve the items 1, 2, and 3.
Are you prepared for questions or?
I'd entertain questions, yes, sir.
Questions?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Again, the moved and seconded 1, 2, and 3. Those in favor would please say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Okay. The next item is number 4. That's the 8% resolution. I'll entertain a motion for approval and then would entertain explanation with respect to it.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the 8% resolution. And I'll recognize Dr. O'Malley at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. If you would grant me a little time to walk through this, because I think there's quite a few things that we want to mention. Although this motion as a resolution has appeared on the board agenda for quite a number of years, I want to make sure we clarify some things. So in this resolution, we are asking, again, part of our 8% of our assets to borrow would be $12.4 million. And that goes along with the same categories that we have utilized these funds for in the past. Continue with the Southside Middle School, adding equipment, and we've added a little bit of a portion here for athletics and playground equipment this year, about $750,000 to be added to that. That was one of the ad hoc committees that had met, and we had gone through some of those items. And then to continue on the maintenance plan, so we are finishing year 2 of a 5-year maintenance plan, which was that 314-page document that contained what we were going to do. With that understood, I just want to recap briefly sort of what we have done so far, so you can understand the complexity of not only what we've done with very little money and all of our assets, but where we want to go in the future. So again, I'll say we're concluding year 2. We had the failed referendum in year 1, so this is in my 3rd year, so this is year 2 of the 5-year plan. We spent about $16 million so far on renovations to all of our buildings. And that would include everything that we've done, from windows to bathrooms, painting, floors, lighting, ceilings, security vestibules, gym floors. We've also, transformed a lot of our schools. I'll just take Briggs as the oldest school. Everything there, once you really renovated that, it looks like that school could last another 50 years. And I think that's the important part of continuing this maintenance program, is if we take care of our schools and just monitor them every year, they can last a very long time on the way they're built. Additionally, we've built some state-of-the-art classrooms. We've built a TV studio, recording studio. We've updated all of our media centers, added furniture to our classrooms. All of our high school auditoriums, gyms, bleachers, weight rooms, lighting have been added. We've added classrooms to McLaurin and a new gym at Greenwood. We've built the Beck Center. We've built a new Southside Middle School that'll be completed in August of 2022. We're renovating McClennigan High School. We've purchased a new administration building on South Irby Street. We have plans to renovate the Pointer School starting next fall. And then, as everyone knows, we have 3 new on-campus stadiums that will open this June, as well as a 32 classroom addition at West Florence. We've already removed 20 mobiles from the district, with another 20 to be set this summer. And then when the allocation of the middle school goes through, then we'll be able to remove most of the mobiles in all the elementary schools in that following year. We've done a tremendous amount with technology. Part of this 8% has been, over the years, the use of the money for technology. We're just completing over 1,250 smart boards in every single classroom in the district. We have a very successful and much needed a one-to-one Chromebook initiative. It's kind of interesting how we started that in that initiative, and then that became very important as COVID hit. We have new security measures in place with our new metal detectors. We've got piano and guitar labs. We've got distance learning labs. And then this summer, which is something that I think we've truly needed, we're putting a phone system, a voice over IP system in every classroom in our district, which is a huge issue not to have that kind of access in our schools, especially in the year 2021. We've got our STEM bus, and I just share all this with you because we've done so much, and we've tried to utilize as much of the money that we've had, whether it's our budget, the 8%, our general fund, our fund balance, our TIF money, our ESSER money, every possible way that we could get and utilize our money. We've done as many projects as we can, and then some as we move forward. So we've really done all of this, and that's just the facilities and the technology part. We don't talk about the academics and what we've done for staff and our employees as far as compensation. And we've never, and I think this is important because it always gets missed, we've never asked for a penny in tax revenue to do any of these items. And sometimes I like to say nobody really cares until you ask them for that nickel. And so I think what's important here to understand is that we've done all this with as much as we can, as fast as we can, using every opportunity financially that we can. We've gotten to a position where our budget now is operating and expended at almost 97%, meaning we're not generating $5, $6, $7 million every year to drop the fund balance. We're actually asking for a budget, expending that, and paying for it as we move forward. And as we use our fund balance for Southside Middle School, that comes down. So we begin to put ourselves in a place where all those funds become, very scarce, and we have to make sure we're making some decisions as we go forward. So as we look at our 5-year maintenance plan, our total renovations in that 5-year plan for all of our schools was $46 million. So over 5 years, to do all of our schools, the renovations that are in it is $46 million. And as I said, we spent 16 of that so far. With 3 years to go, that's $30 million, 3 years left. That renovation does not include 2 items that all of us have, including myself, we sort of do it in our own homes, things like a roofing project or HVAC, because for a lack of a better term, they're not sexy, people don't see them, and it's not, but they're significant. It's 2 things that really make up a huge facility. And so with those 2 items, in our 5-year maintenance plan, $21 million is in our maintenance plan for just roofing projects that we have not done at all. And another $46 million is for HVAC. Each of our high schools alone are about $7.5 million to repair their HVAC units. So we're talking about $97 million remaining, and when we're only generating $12.4 million, and we're putting $5 million away for pay as you go, that money trickles down. That we're struggling to get to that $97 million. And when you don't have that money generated in other areas, one of these HVAC systems goes, or as we all saw, it rains a lot sometimes here in South Carolina. Those roofing projects become major, and they're major expenses, and we have to start addressing those. So I do want to make everyone aware that in this resolution, and this has been in the resolution I guess I'll at least say, since I've been here, that in page 5, so if you want to know, 3.02, it is framed in the sense that you have authorized me to set the time frame for the bonds. So in other words, every year we have set the bonds for 4 years. And every year we pay them off in that 4-year cycle, and that's what generates the 12.4 million. But every year that authority has been vested in the superintendent. I have never authorized that to be anything other than the 4-year bonds. But I will say, and I want to make it clear, so there's, in this resolution that you will either vote for or vote for against, that I'm going to have to exercise an authority vested in that resolution to shorten those bonds. Because I cannot, there's no way that I can put our district not being able to address these items in the future. So what that basically means is that one of those bonds will be paid off in a year term, so $12.4 million being paid off in 1 year. What that will do, though, is generate in 22-23, $22 million that'll be available for the district to utilize for the maintenance plan. So I have to think ahead, and regardless of whether I sit in the seat or not, it's about making sure the district has the finances to put themselves in a place for items that are really big ticket items that could happen anytime. So I just kind of want to make sure that everyone understands that. That authority's been there all along. I've never exercised that, so that's not new. But I want to be clear, transparent, and out there that that is something that I intend to do this year if this resolution is passed, because it is for the future. Now, the resolution only generates 12.4 for the coming year. It would be in the future years that we would be able to have that money. So it would not be for anything that we would have for short term. So really the resolution is for the 12.4. I can't change the amount. I can only change the years of how the bonds mature. So I wanted to make sure everyone was clear about that capacity. And I want everyone to understand that that additional millage that would be required for that would be set by the county treasurer, but I would have the authority under this resolution to set those maturity bonds, and that would be only for future projects. I want to make sure that's clear for everyone too, that nothing that we have done so far on this list or that I missed would be paid with any of that money moving forward, because that wouldn't be available until the June timeframe of 2022. But I have to think ahead to put the district in a position that quite frankly, so the next person doesn't walk into what I walked into, they're in a better spot to make some decisions on how they want to do and where they want to go. So I just want to make sure everybody's clear on those things. That also doesn't include, as it was alluded to earlier on in the meeting, Williams Middle School or Savannah Grove. So that $97 million does not take into account any new schools. That's just renovations, HVAC, and roofing projects throughout our 31 buildings that we have in the school district. So it's not easy to say, but I never want anyone to think that authority's been there all along, and probably even before me. I just don't know if anybody saw it or recognized it. I've never exercised that authority that you've given me, but this time I want to be very clear with everyone that I intend to do that if this resolution is passed. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for the explanation. There's a motion and second on the floor. That explanation's been made. Any questions, board members, in relation to that?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
My question is, the superintendent, his presentation was thorough, and the bond part of it, I really appreciate, because it looks like we're going in the right direction. And looking to the future, I must take off my hat, because I think that's a great way to go. But one of the questions I have is when you mentioned HVAC, by being in the hospital, I kind of recognize the flow of air coming into the classrooms for our kids. And I'm wondering, have you looked at that if they go back into the classroom? Is this air gonna be, flowing? Do we have a program in one of your programs that you were talking about? Having the airflow where they can get fresh air and keep this pandemic from going crazy with our kids. That's one question I have. The bond part of it, I think is great, looking to the future. I think, I've known that was in there, but you're the first one to take advantage of it. And hopefully, that helps our district quite a bit. And that's looking out for all of us, and not only you, but it's looking out for the future of anybody else to come as well. But my question, this is a simple question. When the kids go back to school, and if they go back into the classroom, how safe is it for them to stay in the classroom, to have that flow of air coming through, so they'll all be safe when they get in there? Because I noticed it down in Charleston, in the hospitals especially, when they have this whole flow of air going through and it's constantly fresh. Do we have that in our classrooms now, or do you have that planned for the future, Mr. Superintendent?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear
Okay.
you.
So we have a couple of air purifiers in some classrooms, but not across the district, and we do not have anything in particular that's attached to our HVAC systems currently. But obviously, anything new post-COVID would have an air purifier system, probably most likely attached to the new ones, but we do not have it currently, other than just some things that we wheel into the classrooms currently in a few of our classrooms across the district.
The reason I said that, it was so many people when I was under that doggone thing I was under, so many people were dying, from the lack of flow. And is there any way we can make sure that our kids will be protected by not only the ones that you bring into the classroom, but something that we'll have in there permanently to keep them safe and sound?
Yeah, I think with the next round of ESSER funds, there are some funds that we'll be utilizing to adapt some air purification systems to some of our current HVAC systems. So they are currently looking into that as well.
Well, I would hope so, and thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Gregg?
Yeah, I think it's a very good way to look at the stuff we have going on in this district. Dr. O'Malley, he was reeling off so much stuff we've done in the past 2 or 3 years. Since the failed referendum, I couldn't keep up. I didn't even try to write it down. We've done so much within our own house, so to speak. So I think this is a very good idea. It's very thoughtful for looking into the future for the students, for the district, and everything. So I'm going to support it 100% and stand behind it. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Was your hand up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Oh,
we've done
I've-
so,
I've
I'm sorry,
got-
I'm sorry.
Got one right here. Yeah. Go ahead, please, sir.
Lee is always first.
All right, go ahead.
Sure, I didn't hear you down there, I'm sorry.
It's probably my bad, but go ahead.
No, I can't remember what I wanted to say now.
We'll come back around.
Isn't that, let Mr. Pipkins go and I'll get my thoughts back together again.
All right.
That must be contagious, because I can't remember you.
You made him
He threw me off track,
He
yeah.
forgot too. So
You threw me off track, too.
I got something to say.
all right,
I
so
wrote it
Mr.
down, so I went, I know I
I'm
wrote it.
back, I'm back.
Huh?
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Mr. Gallo, you want to rescue them and go ahead and ask your question?
Yeah. You were talking about how much we have spent, 16 million for this year out of that. I just want to ask a question that always comes to my mind. When we start going with this technology stuff, now we spend I see you got one-to-one Chromebooks. Do you envision next year and these 1,250 smart boards? So to keep the fund flowing and keep them from reaching in and dipping,
is this a thing that's gonna be sustained for maybe 2 or 3 years, Mr. Jones, or you, Superintendent? The technology, I know it changes constantly, don't get me wrong, but I mean, like smart boards and stuff like that, they cost a lot of money, so we shouldn't have to spend $1 million for that in the next 3 years.
Right, so we did, the smart boards, I'll start with that one first. We
Yeah.
did K-8, and we're doing now, all the high schools. So there's kind of a
Yeah.
lag over that, so that should be fine to do. We purchased the Chromebooks in the past. We've used actually now our ESSER money to replenish grades 2 to 5. So we've used some other monies to try to keep that going as well. So the technology, to me, is almost as important as when we used to put textbooks in the budget. So I think that'll always be both in the general fund, whether it's in the 8% or whether it's in, you know, the COVID funds that we've received. I think we're trying to maximize all these resources to keep us moving forward. Chromebooks, by the way, were never designed the way we use them now. I mean, they're not a everyday kind of use. It was not. So I think that's a decision down the road of, if we're gonna use technology at that level, we're gonna have to look at maybe something a little bit different, long-term than the Chromebooks, especially in the older grades.
In long term, yeah, with that and the smart boards and all, you have them all and they're fancy. That's what a lot of the teachers actually, in all actuality, do not use them every day to be spending all of the money. So if you do the high school, you may want to make sure when you come down to elementary and middle school that everybody's going to utilize, because you spend a lot of money. And then we have a lot of turnover with teachers, and you know, sometimes smart boards are just like everything else, it get put in the drawer, and you don't do anything with it, but now you've already spent $650,000 for all these smart boards and stuff like that. I just wanted to bring that up, because I was in the system for a while, we had smart boards and we didn't use them. But now, you know, these teachers are different, they're smarter than I am, and there's a whole new game going on, so they use them for everything. And then with virtual going on, I'm sure we utilize them a lot, but I'm just saying, to spend millions of dollars every year or every 3 years or however we do it, is something we need to look at somewhere in there. That's my point, that was it.
Thank you, sir.
Everybody can remember what they had to say now, I guess.
We tried to buy you some time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right, I guess
thank
I'll
you. Thank you.
swing back
I
around the
appreciate
table,
that.
so I'll come
No,
back around.
I just wanted to say that when I came on the board and visited the schools, I was so disappointed in what I saw and the state that our schools were in. For me, when I would go in and I would see the children, the young children sitting on the floors, on the nasty carpets and all, and I would think, they deserve much better than that. And in the last couple of years, I have felt so good going into those schools and seeing the changes that have occurred. And for me, I would really hate to see us not look toward our future, continue down the road that we're going in making the improvements that we're making, and not stopping and letting all of that go into disarray that we've done and worked so hard for the past few years. So I very much want us as a board to see this district continue to move forward for our kids, to give them a place that is comfortable, a place that it really feels like home in some of these schools now, some of the changes that have occurred and all. It really, really does. But I just don't want to see us go backwards after we've spent all this time going forward. And whatever it takes to keep us moving, thank you for seeing that and being willing to step forward and make sure that that is continued for our kids. It's just amazing for me to see those changes and just to get excited and to go in to the schools and to hear the personnel and the students talk about, I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe that I've been able to see these kinds of changes. So thank you very much for leading us in the right direction. And as a board, let's just continue to make sure that our students are seeing the same kind of thing.
I didn't have a chance to say, I think it's a great idea, it's really super cool. I just don't wanna get the horse too far ahead of the cart. Okay, that's my thing. You know, it's a great idea, it's a good plan, we're going in the right direction, I love it.
Let's just make sure we do it right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Back to you.
How much are the 32 classrooms at West Florence going to cost us total?
We haven't gone out to bid yet, so I think the estimates is somewhere, I would say somewhere between 7 and 10 million.
7 and 10 million, all right, we got 7 million out of the, I would say the stimulus money, right?
The ESSER money, yes.
Okay, so out of the ESSER money, that 7 million projected possibly if comes in the bid over that, because it's my understanding there is going to be another round of funding, correct?
Yes, there'll be a third round that I believe we were told somewhere a release in the fall.
All right, and I guess my question will be direct as it relates to the resolution and even the authority that's given in terms of being able to obviously to pay those notes off quicker than on a deferred basis. So my question would be in terms of prioritizing the educational initiatives. And I understand in particular what's going on, I guess from the state level of entrusting us to take the Timminsville portion over. And we've been talking for the longest about a fourth high school. And with that being said, in terms of looking at the funds that will be going and the number of students, how many students will be impacted with those 32 classrooms?
Well, you have approximately 1,700 students every year that attend West Florence.
But I'm just saying in terms of how many, in terms of are we talking about 500, 600?
So there's the current mobiles, that's what we're trying to replace. There's approximately 500 students that would attend class there each semester.
Okay.
So
And
it
I
could
just
be a
want-
different 500 in the next semester.
Yeah, and the reason I'm asking this question, because as it relates to the upkeep and so forth, once we complete the south side move, that will remove the mobile units from off of that campus, correct?
For South Florence?
For South Florence?
Yeah, we started last year removing some,
Yeah.
and yes, it'll give us, we will have to make a decision on the old south side, what we could possibly salvage and utilize either for the Career Center and or South Florence.
Well, I think the part of the model that you've given, even in terms of what has been done with Briggs, to see what can be retrofitted in terms of modernization. But my question actually leads towards, as it relates to Wilson, with the number of mobile units, and there was concern from the very beginning, when those mobile units were put out there, that there was no, at that time, this board did not have any participation or insight into the placement of them. And because I remember getting the polls, and as well, there were those who also came and approached us. So I'm going to say, I'm going to use the same scenario even with the plan that was submitted. That was not a board sanctioned, quote unquote, board plan. That was an administrative plan. So I'm publicly asking in terms of when the next round of funding that the administration would look at the same, so that if the philosophy is to remove the mobile units, that's one thing. And then the second thing that I'm going to ask in terms of, I think the part that has been, you've really made a great job of laying out the clear case that based upon the current financial structures, we are limited in terms of once we finish with Southside, what is this board going to do and tell the community that I live in about what happens with Williams Middle School? So I need to have an understanding in terms of, and I understand again, and I respect the calling in the notes early, but I want to make certain, because as we dip into the fund balance, at a point, there's not going to be any more fund balance that we can dip into that would ultimately keep our rating to where we are. So what is the vision there? And as you just said, regardless of who's sitting in there, I don't plan on leaving here until I'm dead. And when I'm dead, when I say leaving here, I'm saying Florence, because this is home. And I would hope that my children will plant me back in the soil here. So can you help me to understand, and I know and I'm making it clear, I understand the funding level, but I just need to get a little bit more direction in terms of how do we look at that to be able to communicate that to the community where I live and serve also.
I'll try to answer as many of those as I can. If I miss anything, just follow back. I'll start with the fund balance. So the way this is predicated is that we would maintain a $23 million fund balance, which is both alignment with our policy and then alignment with our risk with the state. So that's using our fund balance for Southside up to that point, which is, I think, a pretty healthy fund balance. So I think we're in solid ground there. Now, we have no intention of going to zero. 23 million is where we're gonna hold at. We have a plan right now to remove 4 of the mobiles at Wilson. I'm optimistic if we get this resolution passed and we have a few more dollars, I think we'll be able to get all 6 classrooms at Wilson High School inside the school and remove those mobiles as well. So that would take care of Wilson High School as far as out of mobiles. Once West Florence's addition's built, that would get West Florence, and then when Southside in the following year is built, then we'd have the possibility. So all 3 high schools could be at, Wilson could be out of mobiles this coming school year, and then West Florence and South Florence in 2 ensuing years. That takes care of the high schools. If you look at the elementary schools, once we go to the middle school, concept completely will be out of mobiles in all of our elementary schools. And then really it boils down to Williams Middle School having the loan. And so, you know, there are other options that we can talk about after, if this resolution is passed down the road about that opportunity. But we really could be out of the mobile business that have been sitting there for years within 2 years completely in this district. I think there are a couple other questions, so just.
Yeah, and so with that being said, in terms of, 'cause I know that there's still additional space and they've retrofitted some of the traditional portions of the school, like the historical mini auditorium is now being used as a class. For some of those things to be returned back to what they were, can some of that be included? I guess that's what my to be included in this next round of funding at a level, because you're.
What school, are you talking about Wilson?
I'm talking about Wilson
Yeah,
specifically.
so we have like 2, just to kind of be clear, we have 2 empty classrooms right now that we could move 2 into. And then what used to be the old auto body shop, that's going to be the new barbering class, and then 4 other classrooms in there that have been designed. The problem we really have is the cost, and that's why I said what I said about West Florence. The cost of construction is through the roof right now. On top of that, most of the contractors know that we're all getting money, so they all know that this is there. So the costs are extremely high, so we're trying to do those things. I'm hedging my bet. I believe we can get completely out of mobiles, and I agree with you. I don't know whose decision it was. Let's put the mobiles in the front of a school. Really doesn't make sense, but we've done that a lot here. But I think we could be out of the mobiles there. We do have an opportunity to possibly use one of the mobiles to help with creating a tennis center at Wilson's Tennis Center, as well as we're trying to do at South Florence. So we have some really good things in the motion, so I wouldn't worry about whether that next round of money is going to be used. We're well ahead in trying to get that done well before that even comes.
Okay, and so with Williams, because the last conversation with the community, they're still left on a cliffhanger in terms of rebuild on site or whatever else.
I wish I had the magic potion for that last piece of the puzzle. I think we've done just about everything here in a short period of time. I believe if you give me a little short time, I think I might have a proposal that might make that come to fruition. But I can't give away all those things too soon. I mean,
well, the reason I'm asking that because it's my understanding in some communities that they're actually having an opportunity to rebuild total schools. And I'm just, I'm old enough and I'm gray enough now to understand that if I don't lay out in terms of this board, and I went back and looked, we've been talking about a middle school concept from seems like since the beginning of time, and it has not, and looks like one side of town will be shortchanged. And I know that's not the intention, but if those funds can be used to whatever, and I think some of the consideration of the community as it relates to even at the existing site. But if there are things that we can do to accommodate and to expand the horizon, are really before, and some communities may not want to be engaged, and some board members may not want to be engaged, and their communities may take the posture that they simply can articulate, but that doesn't come from the community that I serve. They want to be engaged. So what I'm saying is that if we can make certain, and as we prepare for the next round, that those components are given some serious level of consideration, particularly, and I don't like to say that the referendum failed. I just think that the people spoke. And we have a thing in church that says when the church has spoken, we say amen. And so because it is spoken, we are moving on a very good trajectory. We've accomplished on the west side 2 middle schools. We're accomplishing on the south side the middle school. We still have a pregnant Chad on the north side, or as some may reference, the northwest side. So with that being said, I'm just putting it on the table that we have those funds that are coming forward, and all things are political. And so since there is a national political movement, I'm asking that we make certain that we look back at what the response that we got, even from the very sessions that many of us facilitated. It was to move forward with the middle school, and then perhaps our community may even get the opportunity to come back and to provide us with something that they said was not a larger price tag, or we look for some other creative methods.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, appreciate everyone's input there. So we do have the motion on the floor, very full explanation and very good discussion. At this time, I'll call for the vote. Those in favor of approval of the 8% resolution, would please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? All right, it's unanimous. Thank you,
Mr. Chair.
sir.
Yes. We did a resolution amendment back on June the 11th, 2015 for $12,500,000 general obligation bond. Would you ask, let's get a final distribution of those funds?
Yeah, that's what I was going, Mr. Chairman.
Sir,
Can he hear me? Can he hear me?
yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
Mr. Chairman.
I hear
Can you
you.
hear me?
Yes,
Oh, that's the question I had, when Alexis was talking. That came to my mind as well as the, Williams situation. But that last question he asked was on my mind. And he came back and asked it. That's why I plugged in to see could I ask the same question.
all
But,
right, all right, sir.
Go ahead, I'll go back to me.
I'll get that from you. All right, thank you. All right,
You,
all right, we'll move then to action item 5. You have in your packet, and also this is actually the notebook, reappointment of staff 2021-2022. Also, excuse me, let me catch up real quick. You'll note in the packet that through council's work that the reappointment of personnel is in the form of motions that are in the last attachment under reapportionment of staff, and it lays out the format for approval with respect thereto. So that would be that there are 5 motions that match the 5 attachments. Hopefully you've had the opportunity to have studied both the notebook and then also the way in which that's worded. So With that, it would be in order unless you wish to separate those out, which certainly is fine. Absent that, I can entertain a motion then for approval of those as en masse as items 1 through 5, or you can separate those out. I'll entertain motions either way.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the superintendent's recommendations on number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Second.
All right, moved in second. Any question or discussion with respect to that?
I have a legal question.
Yes, sir.
Once we approve the staff reviews, are they not public?
I can't hear you, Mr. Pipkins.
If you want to.
Once we approve, are the reviews not public?
When you say the reviews, I'm not understanding what you mean by the reviews.
Well, it's reference to staff review.
The assignments,
Yeah.
it's kind of a technical yes, but typically we don't advise any public comments because in theory, the staff haven't been notified that you've approved them. So our advice has always been, it would be inappropriate to publicly release them before the actual staff members are made aware.
No, I understand that. That's not the question. I'm asking, once we approve it, it's a public document.
Correct.
Okay.
Subject to what I said. as
Yeah, I
far
mean,
as-
I understand that.
Okay. All right. Motion made and seconded then was for approval of the recommendation in the forms of items 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'll call for the vote. Those in favor would please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed.
I just have, I guess I want to make a comment. I don't know if I'm
Yes, sir.
Because I probably would have. So when we end work agreements, we no longer reassign employees? Or we just end, if their positions are ended, no actual occurs or opportunities presented? Because I said a number of positions that we are eliminating.
Go ahead.
Sure, I think sometimes that is based on a case-by-case basis. I don't think that's a blanket policy that if you just, your position ended, you automatically get a position somewhere else or considered for a position somewhere else.
I'm saying they've got years of service, credits and so forth, so we just throw them away and keep on going. I hate to say it like that, but, and the reason I'm asking that is if we're not gonna have a teacher shortage in this district. Correct.
I don't, you know, we're at a good position. We had 0 vacancies last year. We're at 25 this year. We're in better shape than most people. Will we have maybe 1 or 2? I hope not, but we always strive to get to 0.
And the reason I'm asking that is that if we're beginning a new relationship and looking at, and some of these people I know as well, on some of their credentials, and it's my understanding our neighboring district has struggled to recruit teachers as well, and with the new legislation that's coming forward, that those who may have baccalaureate degrees, and if we're going to provide some of those services, if any of those individuals could have or could be given some consideration for going over to a neighboring district. Does that make sense what I'm asking? I know we don't.
It does, but I don't think I can't tell another district how to hire what their practices are, but I think the best I can offer you is in our conversations with those employees, we can offer some guidance or suggestions of possibilities for them.
Okay, and I guess the other question, I hate I'm doing it, but since it wasn't on the fifth day, so I have to ask you. Will those employees have the opportunity for any due process if they want to, since their positions have been terminated? And maybe that's a legal
That's
question.
definitely a policy question. I don't have that in front of me. to answer.
I don't know the specifics of this all.
The specific question is, if positions have been eliminated
Right.
via policy, do those individuals have the right to request their due process here?
Right, and I don't have your RIF policy in front of me, but typically they would, they would have to be consistent with your policy, which basically says they would need to show that the decision wasn't arbitrary, that there was some rational basis for the decision to eliminate the position. But again, it would have to be consistent with your whatever your RIF policy says.
All right, thank you.
That it? All right, thank you. All right, move then to item 6 is architect contracts - 5-year maintenance plan and Pointer School renovation.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I have a motion prepared for this item.
Yes, sir.
Item 1, item 6.
Item 6.
Item 6.
I move that the board approve the terms of the contracts for architectural services presented to the board and authorize the superintendent to sign the contracts on behalf of the district as follows. Number 1, Collins and Ulmer's Architecture for the Pointer School project. 2, Collins and Ulmer's Architecture for projects to be assigned included in the district's 5-year maintenance and facilities upgrade plan. And 3, Jumper Carter Cease Architects for projects to be assigned included in the district's 5-year maintenance and facilities upgrade plan.
All right, second to that?
Second.
All right, moving second, I'd recognize, if I may, Dr. O'Malley, just to provide background. I know this went out, there was a process whereby these recommendations have come to us, so I'll yield the floor.
And so there's just two items. So under the 5-year maintenance plan, there's a lot of architects doing a lot of work now. So we actually now have 3 architects available. Hal Fuller, his term will continue throughout the 5-year plan, and we're adding these 2 as well for some of the items. There was interviews conducted. Actually, the first round was to take all the people that applied to the RFP, and then narrow that down to interviews, and then interviews were conducted to select these architects, and then the same process was followed for the Pointer School. We sent out an RFP. We met as a committee and decided who to interview, and then there was a separate interview committee for several of the architects, and then that was the one selected was Collins and Ulmer.
All right, so that's the process that leads to that. I was going to ask for questions. Yes, sir.
Any board member serves on the committee?
Yes, Ms. Calder and Mr. Townsend were on the committee.
All right, so for full disclosure, I think that needs to be identified in the record that 2 board members serve on the committee, and that the board member is making the motion from being on. So is this a superintendent's recommendation or the board members who was on the committee's committee? Huh?
Just the committee's recommendation.
Committees.
I understand that, but I didn't know they were on a committee.
But the same process was followed, I think, a few years ago when Mr. Galloway and I were on the committee for the selection of the folks that are working on Pointer. That was, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. So it's same process.
Yeah, but I don't remember y'all saying y'all had a prepared motion.
Well, the motion was actually prepared by legal counsel, since this is technical motion, and to follow the legal parameters that are necessary in these kinds of selections. This was not prepared by a board member. I know for a fact that Mr. Halligan prepared it.
Well, I said,
Because he showed it to me right at the time of the meeting, and that was his job, was to bring that information as an advisor to that committee.
Can I get it? Oh, okay, go ahead. Are we having break or something?
Are we having what?
A break or something? I see
No.
one board member just walking backwards and forwards. Is that the way we do?
Not to my knowledge, I haven't called for a break.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. I thought we all had to be president.
It just
Discussion.
seems like 2 board members always on every whole, and some of us being appointed to Better Homes and Garden Committee. And so I don't have a problem with supporting, but I do have one question.
Yes,
What
sir.
is the what is the local and minority participation with these entities that's being presented tonight?
Were there any considered?
No, I'm not asking any concern, I'm asking what is it?
I don't understand your question.
I'm asking what is the local and minority participation in those that are being submitted to us tonight?
Well, I think the recommendation is coming to us as a result of the RFP that went out. Are you asking?
I'm asking specifically, what is it? For the record.
What is what?
The local and minority participation that is included here, so that can be stated for the record.
Of those that responded to the RFP?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, that would be for the architects, I guess, whatever architects responded. I don't know. I wasn't on the committee.
What they
Can
want-
anyone?
I wasn't on it either.
I don't have that information. This is the
Can
committee's
I-
recommendation.
Can I say something here? For each of these that interviewed, there was a minority component. There were people there representing minorities, actually, that came in and did a portion of the presentation. I want to think on all three of these. Am I correct, Mr. Townsend?
All
Yeah.
three, what three? I
Well,
don't see what one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just asking this to state it for, I'm not.
I mean, yeah, and
There
and
was.
Collins Almers is a local firm. Jumper Carter Cease is not local. They're from South Carolina. They're the firm that a previous committee selected for Southside, and so we have an experience with them as well. And yes, there were all of the recommendations, both for the architects and for the construction contract. There were a substantial portion of their presentations, especially on the construction part, dealt with the local and minority component. And I'll address, if I can, I'll just address that a little bit further when we get to the construction item, which is the item 7, because it was a little more in depth. But yes, there is a minority and local component to each of these recommendations.
And the reason I'm bringing that back, because we weren't involved in the level of discussion, so just, we spent a lot of money and opportunity. And then my final question is, as it relates to 5-year, and I can recall, there was historical concern about the length of time our previous architects had been with us. Will this sunset, or will this give opportunity for renewal?
It sunsets, I believe. Yes.
So I just, at the record, huh?
It's a 5-year plan, and both of these 2 5-year plans are effectively 3-year contracts.
Say it again now?
You're 2 years into the 5-year plan. They
Yeah.
are hired to help work on the 5-year plan, so these are effectively 3-year contracts for both Collins and Jumper Carter.
Okay, so when they have, this draft was dated 2017,
Well,
is that what you're referencing?
No, the contracts will be dated, the architects will be dated today.
Well, Collins Arms has supplemental services effective August the 1st, 2017. So what,
I'm not sure of the question.
as an Exhibit A, standard agreement provisions and hourly rates for additional or supplemental
Oh.
services effective August 1, 2017.
That is only effective for additional work that's not part of the original project assigned to them. That rate sheet is will probably never be used. It was dated that date by then. That was their original date of, they've been using the same sheet since 2017. But the contract is dated, will be dated today for all 3 architects.
But the cost is based upon this 2017 sheet.
No,
Oh,
those
sir.
hourly rates, the basic compensation for all of the architects is a percentage of the amount of the work. That is in the basic, for basic services. And for the 5-year plan, that is a rate that is based upon the amount of each project. It's a higher rate for small projects, and it gets to be a smaller rate. For Pointer, it's a 6%. The hourly fees only apply for additional work that you agree to at a later time. It is not part of the base fee. So that is really LS3P's list, who is a subordinate architect with Collins and Almers. So I would be, you have to agree to any additional work before the architect can do it. And so it will be a negotiated number, how much you pay them.
All right, so the contractual amount will be developed by the superintendent with them.
Well,
Because we're gonna authorize the superintendent to sign the contract, right?
he signs a contract, and then the board, for example, the 5-year maintenance agreements, I mean, are to be assigned. You haven't assigned either of these architects' work under your 5-year plan. But when you do, you're gonna have a project that's gonna have a budget for work. And that their percentage will be a percentage of the cost of that work. So if it's $1 million project, it's a certain percentage of $1 million will be the design fee. And that's the way
That sounds pretty healthy, that.
Hmm.
Well,
Well-
pretty standard.
and it includes all the engineering, and there's a lot of engineering in a renovation project.
Sounds like some of the school districts just hiring their own architect firms and stuff on it.
No,
Or
all of them are doing it the same way, the way you're doing it.
Yes. Question? All right. I'll just nod. I can hear you.
Oh, I got you now.
Okay.
Okay. First of all, who's that answering those questions?
That's the legal counsel, Mr. Halligan.
Oh, that's Halligan. Okay. A second question is, who select these committees? I kind of noticed when I was in the hospital, I was thinking about our committee selection, and I think Pipkin kind of led to it when he was going into his argument, his discussion. And, what it appears to me now, I'm old, I'm just saying what it appears to me, it couldn't be real. But what it appears to me, when I was executive director of a facility or two, when you want something done, you select committee people in order to get your voices heard. So I'm just wondering, I thought about the finance committee earlier that we had and some of the things that occurred. I was also thinking about these committees. Who select these committees, and does it come to the board? Or does one person select a committee to go along with their particular whatever they're doing? So I was just asking because I'm noticing, and just from afar, I'm just noticing the selection of committees is going in a direction where I want something done. Now, I could be wrong, but it appears to me, well, I don't want to go that way, but it just looks like when I select committee members, it's something that I want done, so I select these people. And that's going down the same road that Pipkin was going through before he started on the other things that he was talking about. But that stuck out to me for months and months. And I wanted to bring it up because as I laid in the hospital and thought about this over several months, I'm just wondering, and I was looking at some of the board meetings on YouTube, and it just kind of struck me to ask this question when I had an opportunity to ask. So I'm asking this question now. Who select committees to make decisions to bring back to the board? And that's my question right now. And I'll go in my second question later. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but this has been burning on me for months. And I was just wondering, I had to ask the question, and hopefully I'll get an answer to it. If not, I'll move on. Thank you.
Thank you. You wanna
Yeah,
respond?
it's always been clear the superintendent makes the choice, the selection. That's clear.
That's, the procurement code that you have to have, I mean, it's dictated by the state. The district procurement code provides that you delegate procurement to the superintendent. And it, on the selection committee.
Who's answering that question?
Mr. Halligan.
And
Oh,
it
that's
says
Halligan
the
again.
superintendent selects the selection committee for architects and contractors selected by the method you've used. So it's the superintendent.
So the superintendent appoints these people, okay. I understand now, okay.
All right. Okay. Question?
Yeah, but I think for transparency, the committee members, that needs to be identified for full transparency. If I hadn't asked the question, I wouldn't know who I was on.
Mhm. As far as the
That's a
committee.
good question.
I think all, and I'm gonna ask that even after this, I mean, I plan to support it, but I think it needs to be fully provided.
Yeah, the members of the administrative committee, we would have that info. If you wanna,
What's the question?
The members of the selection committee appointed.
Sure, it was myself, Ms. Calder, Mr. Townsend, Mr. Larry Reynolds.
I mean, now.
I'd be Mr. Greg Hall, who's the assistant superintendent for secondary, and I believe
The procurement.
procurement officer, Mark Wenzel.
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
No, I'm just saying, it should be stated, even when you provide them the recommendation, that these were the members who were on the committee, blah, blah, blah. And they met on XYZ date. Because unlike in the past, we had a board committee that actually met, and staff was involved in the board's committee of such.
But under the current, under the current procurement code, this does follow the South Carolina state law currently at this time.
I'm not negating what the procurement code is, but at the end of the day, we're still the board, and the board can engender and participate in any processes and policies and procedures. And so just like if you want to handpick whoever you want to handpick, but it's not about handpicking, even if the opportunity, all 9 of us should have known the opportunity, and then let whomsoever will. I'm not saying that I would have been running to be a part of it, but the reality of it is, and just remind you something that you sent to me back in 2004, the way it looks like only white people can serve on a committee, and that I hope that's not the intention. And you reminded me of that in 2004 in terms of the diversity of committees on boards, board committees or board members participating, and it's more than just the same 2 people. All of us pay taxes in this community, and all of us were elected by a single-member district to serve the community.
Okay. Yeah. And just to clarify, this was not a committee appointed by me as chair. This is administrative, but I hear the point that you're making.
I'm not making it the comment to you. I'm talking
Yeah.
actually to us as a
Yeah.
body.
Correct. I got you. All right. Any other questions or comments?
Well, that's a good community, I dare guarantee that. It doesn't look good. No minorities on that, none of those committees, and that's strange, really. But I'm gonna be quiet and mute myself off.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right. You heard the motion read on the floor. It's been seconded for the selection of architects for those specific tasks. All right, motion on the floor seconded for those architectural recommendations. I'll entertain a vote. Those in favor would say aye.
Aye.
And opposed. All right, thank you.
And I support this motion if the record can reflect, because it does have a 5-year sunset clause. If the record can reflect my position for supporting itself.
Yes, sir. Item 7 then is the CM at-risk contract dash West Florence High School addition. Again, this is one of those technical motions that's been drafted by Mr. Halligan and provided, to my knowledge. I'd like to put a motion on the floor so that we can discuss.
I'm
So-
prepared to make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
All right, sir.
Point of order, but who selects who's been given what to make a motion?
The motion was drafted by legal counsel. It was provided to a board member. A motion has to be placed on the floor, someone that was involved in that process.
Say that again now?
It was on the committee, right?
The motion was drafted by counsel, who is a advisor to the selection committee. Again, because of the technicalities of the approval of these kinds of recommendations, it's important that the legal language, excuse me, let me finish, be correct. So Mr. Halligan drafted the form. As far as who reads it, I suppose anyone could, but the motion to be entertained needs to be technically correct. So the desire, the searching for the right word, the motivation then was to place this before the board in a format that would be correct to lead to the discussion and questions that would need to follow. So that's what motivated the process here. It was more technical than anything else. For that matter, I could have read it, but I wasn't part of the committee.
Yeah. But the reality of it is not a board committee, it's an administrative committee.
But it still comes before the board.
Yeah, but it still comes before the board, but this is what you call hoodwinking the board. Okay, we
So,
want-
well,
but-
nothing's, so we're out of order. There's no motion on the floor to discuss yet. If you want to take shots at the process, you're certainly welcome to do so once we actually have something on us on the floor to consider, but we don't have that yet.
Well, I'm raising a point of order as it relates to that. It appears that there was a meeting before the meeting, even with the attorneys, to give a motion to a board member, because a board member has no authority prior to the meeting. So all 9 board members should have had the motion.
Well, only one board member is going to make it, but I guess Mr. Halligan can certainly be informed by your opinion going forward in the future if all 9 board members need to see a technical motion ahead of time. So at this time, I'm going to entertain the motion. You can certainly continue thereafter, but we need to get to the point. Sir?
I move that the board approve the terms of the contract for a construction manager as constructor presented to the board with Thompson Turner Construction, a division of Thompson Construction Group Incorporated, for the classroom addition and other work to be determined at West Florence High School, and authorize the superintendent to sign the contract on behalf of the district, subject to expiration of the protest period under the notice of intent to award.
And what's
All
the
right.
date on that?
That's as of tonight. Is there a second to the motion
Second.
first? All right. It's been moved and seconded.
So, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
All right, so how did you select who you gave the motion to?
I gave it to the chair.
You gave it to the chair, so the chair gave it to Mr. Towns.
No, actually, I directed that it be given to someone who is a member of the committee since I wasn't on it. It's coming as a recommendation from administration, but the board member has to make the motion. There was a board member that was part of the committee. To me, that seemed to be a logical process. If you disagree, I respect your disagreement, but that was my choice.
I'm not disagreeing with your choice, I'm just questioning the process procedure that.
Well, the efficacy of what took place was simply to facilitate the process, but obviously that was incorrect and I was in error because it didn't work, did it?
No, I don't think so, and considering some of the past levels of consideration, or lack of consideration.
Well, we're being mired down in procedure, but not in substance, but,
Well,
what motivated me was simply to get a motion on the floor in a technically correct manner. Next time, I'll hand it to you, Mr. Pipkins, and you can read it.
well, no, no.
No, it's fine.
Yeah.
There's no prejudice either way. I'll be happy for you to read it.
Let me clarify, since you said we're not gonna get marred down with no substance. The point that I'm making is that if there are opportunities and where board members are serving on administrative committees for transparency, all board members should know. I don't have a problem with Mr. Townsend reading the motion, but I'm saying to you, it was on the agenda, and now the defense on the back end says, well, because of the technical, there have been lots of motions that have been made without technical, and the attorneys have prepared it while we've been seated at the meeting. I'm not questioning that. I am questioning the process that we all were not aware that there were board members on a committee. And then when well, I've got a prepared motion. And I hate that I'm belaboring it in such a manner, but I think the advisement goes is that in administrative committee, he can do what he wants to do, but it does not read to create a spirit of collaboration nor harmonious board.
Understood. Point taken. And I apologize for getting a little exercised a moment ago,
Well, that's all
because
right.
my motivation was to facilitate, not to impede the process. So to the extent I was not successful, that's on me. That was not my intent. Any other questions or comments?
I think I'll go back to my original question that Mr. Townsend said he would answer at this time as it relates to the local and the minority.
The firm that the committee selected, Thompson Turner, they have a person who will be dedicated to this particular project, to the recruitment and insurance that both minority and local businesses will be included. They provided examples of recent projects, including the Southside project, of the percentages of local and minority firms that they typically participated, and the numbers were quite high. That's one of their goals. Is obviously there's a benefit, both cost-wise and otherwise, to hire locally as much as possible. However, the other component of this is they are also, while they're dedicated to that, and they have an employee whose full-time job is to do that, they're also a large enough firm that if they do run into situations like we saw on the Beck project, where and which is quite likely, given the amount of construction that's going to be taking place in the next few years, they run into a situation where, say, they can't find local masons and stuff, and they're a large enough firm that they can actually perform those tasks themselves. So, but yes, that's was actually a major part of their presentation, was how they actually go about guaranteeing the inclusion of minority and local firms.
Would this contract provide them with reporting for us monthly in terms of that level of participation?
Could you repeat that up?
Will this contract provide them the opportunity to report to us monthly with that level of participation?
They don't produce that monthly. They do it at the onset, and then they do it through billing and things like that. So I wouldn't say monthly, but they do it. The way this is CM at risk, they'll know ahead of time who the companies are. So it wouldn't be necessarily have to do it monthly, because it'll be selected way beforehand. Just like at Southside Middle School, like we already know what the percentage is.
Well, previously in the others that we did get, there were updates that were in the monthly updates in terms of what were the levels. So if that can ensure that level that is provided to us, because they're going to still continue to do monthly updates, right?
Yeah, they do monthly updates, but for That particular thing, that's part of, as you saw, part of our audit. So that gets reported at the end. But in this particular project, we'll know right at the beginning because it is
Okay.
pretty straightforward, straight building, and they'll know who the contractors are.
And I hate to make some people uncomfortable with asking these questions, but, they need to make them on the front end, so thank you, Dr. O'Malley.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
And thank you to the committee members who served so well as well.
I'm not seeing any other hands. All right, so I'll call for the question then. The motion is on the floor. It's been made and seconded. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed. All right, number 8 on the agenda is the school renewal plans.
I just said bless you.
No, okay. That are in the packet with the explanation there too. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. Any questions about the renewal plans? That's just an update for the current year.
Well, I'm gonna be honest, it is hard for me to read through these electronically in such a manner. So, y'all read through them all, hats off, but can you get us a bounded copy just as we did with the
These particular are electronic, so that's the form that they're in.
I mean, can you put them all together or something, cause it's just,
Well, mine come up sideways. Is it?
We'll look at that for next year, formatting. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, those in favor of approval of the renewal plans that are part of the packet, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed. All right, thank you. All right, that's the item 8 of action items. We have an executive session need for this evening involving a student appeal as shown on the printed agenda. I'll entertain a motion for the board then to go into executive session to discuss this matter, not to take action, after which we would return to open session to take such action as might be necessary or otherwise appropriate. Is there a motion?
So moved.
It's moved and seconded. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
So with that, ladies and gentlemen, we will take a break from open session for the board to consider that matter. We will return to open session following that to take such action, if any, as might then be appropriate, and we will be at ease. We'll take a 10-minute recess as board members and then convene for the executive session. All right, we'll come back into order. The board's been
You taking the thing for, Kim? Remember Kim said make sure somebody take it?
Yeah, I've got, yeah, I'll give her the,
Okay.
the motion, and
Thank you.
I'm gonna write down who seconds
All
and
right,
everything.
so the board's been in executive session to discuss the student appeal matter. That discussion took place, no action was taken. I'll entertain a motion to come back into open session.
So moved.
Moved,
Second.
and second, Mr. Gregg. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, the student appeal was discussed by the board in executive session. Is there a motion to be made as a result of that discussion?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. In the expulsion appeal regarding student A, I move that the board uphold the student's expulsion for the remainder of the 2021 school year.
All right, is there a second?
I second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. I'll call for the vote. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved,
Second.
moved and seconded. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen and ladies.
Oh, resolution, we did that on July the 11th.